All right, welcome back to the Level Up and Live podcast. I'm your host, Sean Myers, and we're on a mission to empower business owners and emerging leaders to design a life they don't grow to hate without sacrificing health, relationships, or spirituality. We do this through accountability, clarity, guidance, support, and community. Today's guest is a powerful force in the world of branding and personal growth. Michael David Riley, or he likes to call MD, is a 20-plus year brand strategist, marketer, and fractional CMO. He's the founder of Heart Marketing, where he helps business owners cut through the noise with authenticity and storytelling. He's also the founder of 35K a Day, a global movement rooted in encouragement and mindset transformation. An Ironman triathlete turned mindset coach, a father, a fighter, and a force. MD, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Awesome, brother. Well, you know how we roll, man. I know you've been a part of the mastermind group for a couple of weeks as a guest. Hit us with that 1-minute intro.
My name is Michael David. Everybody calls me MD as I've been growing up because two names was a battle my mom tried to mitigate between my dad and my uncle. I am a people person at heart, and my gift is being able to help others improve, whether it's in their business, to help them really translate why they get into business and why they want to serve their community in storytelling ways and smart strategies that really make common sense. But then I also want to help people when it comes to the mindset and the thoughts that we have swirling, to get them to really see a future that they're really destined to live and become the person they're truly destined to be by looking at their 35,000 daily decisions to help them get there.
I love that you share that. I didn't have a timer, but it was definitely under a minute. So I appreciate you sharing that 35K a day. I'm thinking in my mind when Christy was on your podcast, is 35K a day in revenue? But you said 35K a day is what exactly?
So there have been a handful of studies that's been made. And as adults, we average 35,000 decisions a day from the micro to the macro. The ones that are autonomic that we make without even really thinking, habitual, to the ones that we make intentionally, whether in how we act and react to things in life.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And then what's the 60 to 80,000? Isn't it 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day that we have?
Yes. So roughly for every 2 thoughts, you have a decision.
Man, that's incredible when you break that down like that.
And I've spent the past 10 years breaking down really, because we all, if you want better outcomes in life, you want different outcomes in life. Tony Robbins talked about this years ago about the 4 pillars, about cyclical. Yeah. I like to reverse engineer things. And so when I looked at outcomes are results are a result of the actions you take, both in action, reaction, and inaction. Right? But those actions are a result of making a choice or a decision, 35,000 a day. Now, our decisions, though, are rooted on our belief, what we believe we can or cannot do. And that cycles itself, right? So your outcomes are going to reaffirm your belief system. But my question, and I'm a why guy, well, where does the belief come from? And that's where doing further research in neuroscience, in psychiatry and psychology, several studies said that as adults, we average about 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Okay. Well, here's some surprising statistics. 80% of those thoughts are rooted in a negative experience, a disappointment, a hurt, a pain, a trauma, shame, guilt, negative. Well, the thoughts that we have today, and if 80% are rooted in a negative experience, 90% of our thoughts are a repeat of yesterday. When you start looking at numbers, it's no wonder we feel hopeless. It's no wonder we feel so overwhelmed in life. It's no wonder why we don't really believe much of ourselves. It's because, and I was asking, so where do the thoughts come from? What's the origin point? Because if I really want to change the outcomes of my life, in my relationship, in my belief system, in the outcomes of my life, in whatever area it is, then I need to look at what's fueling my thoughts. Where are those anchored? And it comes, and I kept doing research and figuring out it comes down to our focus. Where we're putting our focus mentally in our past, which we can't change, which is why we often deal with so much shame and depression and regret. So then our circle is so critical. Of the 5 to 7 we keep close, because those are the most influential that really show us what's possible with 0 degree of separation. And then what are we listening to? What are we watching? What are we doom scrolling through? What are we reading? What are we listening to? All of these things are influencing where we're putting our focus. And I equate it to, like, if you've ever been hunting, you could have the most expensive dialed in scope on the hunt, and you've got the trophy piece right here. But if your attention and scope is over here, doesn't matter how amazing the whole tool is, you're never going to get it. because your focus is not aligned with your true outcomes. Typically, it's focused on conditions.
Where focus goes, energy flows, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, let's pull back the layers a little bit. You've been an athlete, a coach, and a brand builder, and also a dad, father of 3. How has that journey shaped where you like doing your work today? So let's peel back the layers a little bit.
When I went to college, I wanted to go into forensic pathology. A little morbid. Yeah. I wanted to understand the cause, right? That brought someone's life to that point. It was the research. After getting through that and having some passing out with autopsies and stuff, I was like, this is not the right career choice for me. And I just found myself working in positions that were really marketing focused, people focused. And it was probably 2000 when I stepped into really doing marketing for small businesses, business development with them of getting their sales teams built, getting their brand in the community, in the marketplace, and how to create what I called obvious choice marketing. That was not being an option, but being the obvious choice. And it was real guerrilla marketing way before social and digital. And then everything I kept doing kept getting me into another position that kept honing that skill set in kind of like matchmaking for between businesses and their real prospective target audience. Because I saw this as, what's the problem? Okay, well then let's peel this back and try to find the origin. Is it the right audience and the wrong message, or is it the right message, wrong audience? And then it came down to really understanding the principles in the business. Why are they in business? Because I started to realize that's what people really buy into is an organization's why. Why are they really here? Why are they making their widget, or why are they here with their service business? Because that, when it comes down to heart, and that's where I started calling it heart marketing, especially now in the digital and social world, that is incredibly powerful for a small business. It was the greatest gift, honestly, because the gift of attention was so expensive pre-social digital. It was only really in the power of the big brands that had hundreds of millions of dollars a year to market emotion. So the small business was left to really advertise a transaction. And that was a big numbers game. With social, you can now every single day put out the heart of why you do what you do, why you love your customers, why you love your community, your team, and even your business owners, what it is why do you do what you do? Because ultimately, when you put that out there, people begin to believe it because you're putting out there and you're authentic. Well, that's who people want to do business with. And so I started to see these opportunities, and it just kept steamrolling as the years went by. And I would work with organizations, specifically, and then I would be asked to do some consulting for other companies. And it became a lot of leadership consulting, mindset consulting, and then branding, because it all works together, because a brand ultimately is not a logo. It's not a slogan. It's the truths and beliefs that your customers have about you in the experience they've had. Yeah. Now, a business can put out their identity, but the brand is what the market says it is. And so if it's off, then I help realign it with the business and the leadership of the company.
What would you say the number one lie business owners believe about branding that keeps them stuck? And I think you had kind of tapped into that a little bit, but what would you say the number one lie that most entrepreneurs, business owners believe about branding and what you do that keeps them stuck, not moving the needle in branding their personal brand or business?
For businesses, that there's always another customer out there.
Interesting.
You get into business and, you remember that first dollar. How many businesses put their first dollar on the wall in a frame? How many people put their first customer? They remember that origin story, that day one. But over time, as you grow, so many businesses lose a real connection with the people they're really in business for. And so they just think, well, we're not going to worry about the customer experience. We're just going to be more utility. And where there's always a new customer going to be coming to us. And especially now with social and digital, people will quickly put out their experience, especially when it's mediocre. And, if you just don't really look at the customer as really one of your biggest investor, then you're never going to look at how can you deliver a return for them that's going to get them to want to come back. So it's a big lie, thinking there's way more customers out there than the one that you could be losing. So there's really no investment in trying to keep them with your business or learning how you could be better with the next one that's coming.
You mentioned authentic branding, and I resonate with that, being your true authentic self, vulnerability. What does that actually look like when it's done right? Because you've got experience in doing that. And when you coach business owners and entrepreneurship, it's not easy. But if it's easy, everybody would do it, but they don't. They only put the good stuff out there. And so what does that actual authentic branding actually look like when it's done right?
The power of social allows a business to, and I see this in content, the content that trends most, that people connect with the most, that gets shared the most, is usually the least polished, not scripted, not trying to project a certain image, but real. As a business owner, if you're in business development, you could be in your car and going, "Hey, I have this big meeting, and I'm really excited about meeting with the business owners. And because this is an account I've been working hard to get, or this is a business that I love, or we just had our 10th customer today and we've been open, for 2 weeks. And each day we keep getting more customers. And we just want to say, thank you. Thank you so much for believing and supporting in our business." Because it's like, why do we love Shark Tank? We love Shark Tank because we want to connect with a business that we really feel like we get, that there's some level of connection and empathy. And that's who we want to support, right? And so if you look at that in your local community, and stop trying to be the spit and polished, multi-billion-dollar brand, be the brand that people actually want to support in their community, and just keep getting their attention. And then once you get their attention, introduce them to your why. Don't be clickbaity. Be honest, be sincere. Allow them to be a part of your journey as a business. And when you do that, now they feel vested. And now they not only want to do business with you, they want to share about you to get their friends to be a part. So the authenticity of that is letting people in on your journey as a business, and don't try to be perfect, just be present.
When I'm hearing you say that, I'm thinking about our audience and viewers, and I've heard this in our mastermind group and all around me over the years in building business, that I don't want people to see my face, or I don't have makeup on, or I don't like the way I look today. So I'm curious with you, what are some of those emotional blocks that leaders and business owners face that you help them break through and working with them?
People are afraid of other people's opinions. And so my question is, what are you afraid of? What's the worst thing that can happen if you put yourself out there on social media without your makeup, but you're out there, you're in the grind, you're hitting the streets, you're knocking on doors, you're at a networking event or something. Well, you're giving somebody the opportunity to see how you do business. Record a sales conversation, record a meeting, put it out there, because, and this is what I love most. And especially with small, like service-based businesses, retail businesses, if you put a camera on a business owner, when they're literally talking to their team authentically, or they're having an authentic customer interaction, you're going to get the heart of that individual that translates into the heart of the business. And if you just don't worry about what people think, you're going to realize that what people think is they actually love you because of that.
Yeah.
You just got to get over the hump and just start doing it. And don't think about trying to, well, I'm not really comfortable on camera. Well, neither was Joe Rogan on day one. If you look at his first 5 episodes, they were horrible lighting, horrible video, horrible audio, but he just kept showing up. And you're going to master what you repeat. So if you continually avoid it, you're going to be a master avoider. But if you keep stepping in, you're going to get better at it. You're going to get better at how you articulate your hook and the first line you say. There's so many little things you're going to refine as you get better at what you do, but just don't be afraid of day one, because if you can get over the hump, people are going to love your day one.
I'm thinking about listeners and audience. They try it, they take that advice, they heed that advice, and they go out and they try that first video. They're super vulnerable, and then it falls flat. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing you say is, hey, look, that may happen. It may be a day, it may be 2 days, but keep coming back and keep showing up, keep posting and doing it consistently. And you'll see, you'll see the progress. It makes me think of Mr. Beast. He's got I believe it's well known out there in the YouTube world. And people have come to him, all walks of life, and asked him, Mr. Beast, what does it take to get to where you are? It's the $1 billion question. And he tells them, I'll give you the answer, but I'll come back to me when you have hit and published 100 videos.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is I started a YouTube channel just shy of probably 8 months ago. And I had hired a videographer. We had went all in. We had did vlogging. We had did podcast on this YouTube channel. We had documented travel. We had documented, my different events. And I got to about episode, I think it's in the 60s and 70s. And I hit a wall. And this has probably been in the last 1 to 2 months where I hit a wall. Mm-hmm. But I think what happens is we evolve as human beings. And it goes back to what you're saying, the why shifts. It's like, why did I sign up? Why did I start doing this YouTube channel? Was it out of pride? Was it out of ego? And it just wasn't sustainable for me. It wasn't aligned with what I evolved in doing currently with Level Up and Live. It wasn't aligned with where I need to be spending my time, energy, and effort. Do you have any thoughts on that? And do you work with business owners and entrepreneurs? Yeah, go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yes. My first real encouragement is when you start, don't compare your day one to somebody's day 1,000 who's crushing it.
Oh, it's so good. Yes.
Because that's what we do. And when you put a video out and you get 10 views, you get 10 likes, that's 10 people you probably don't know that saw what you did and goes, I like that. You get 5 followers. Okay. And if they're not one person you know, you have 5 strangers that said, I want to continue to engage with whatever it is that they're saying or doing. 5 people. Yes. Now it grows to 10. Now there's a business that I did this with locally in Conroe, Elliot Sondag. He's a bail bondsman, bounty hunter. And he went out on his own a few years ago and was like, how do I market this? How do I, because there's a lot of laws and restrictions with bail and bounty. I said, okay, I'm going to need you to trust me. But what we're going to do is we're going to gravitate attention because his culture, his ethos of how he does business is very compassionate. His why is very deeply rooted in wanting to really help people in their lowest of moments, right? So I said, what we're going to do is we're going to create a way to gravitate attention, let people get to know you. And I created, it's called Your Bond Daddy. And it was a self-produced reality show where we followed him and his team when they would go run warrants, knocking on doors. And, it was like Dog the Bounty Hunter, but it was local.
Really? That's awesome. Yeah.
And I created the brand identity. I got all the handles, so it was all cohesive. And that was part of the identity package is cohesiveness across all channels, making it easy. And we started in September of 2021 with the first episode, and it was crickets. But we just kept putting them out there, and we kept putting out other things. And you're just testing the market. You're trying to see what people like and really even finding your own rhythm. Even in podcasting, you're not going to find a rhythm till you're at least 50 episodes in. Right?
That's right.
So we got on TikTok in March of 22. And then it was around May, June, again, just being consistent. One took off and it went in the hundreds of thousands of views and then immediately translated to YouTube. We immediately hit all the benchmarks to monetize. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I asked him on day one, we were in Honor Cafe on table 19 when the whole thing started, when we were talking about trying to brainstorm. And I said, what's your goal? He goes, I want to be the most well-known in bail in Houston because I want to be the guy that people know that I want to help them when they're in that low moment. I said, got it, let's go. And he's authentic, right? Yeah. So if we built this popularity with this team, I mean, to the point whenever they arrested some guy, he would, can I get you a cigarette? He's tied people's shoes, very compassionate. Wow. After the cuffs are on. I wouldn't want this 6'3" bald bearded apex guy coming on my door, right? But people loved him and his team, and it elevated the likability of his brick and mortar businesses in Conroe and Houston because now they understood who they were. Yeah. And to where now we've reached over 130 million views across all channels, just over 300,000 subscribers and followers across all channels between YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And it was such a successful way, but it didn't happen overnight. And anytime I talk to especially a small business owner, look, putting yourself out there and getting into building your brand and awareness is a long game approach. And so you want to stick with this, just be consistent, keep showing up, and don't worry about it being perfect. Because when you put it out there, that piece you put out today could take a run 9 months from now. But when you're in a business owner, when you're putting your information out there, and this is the greatest tool about social media, if somebody hears about your business, insurance, a restaurant, mechanics, service-based, whatever it is, even if you're running ads, 80% of people that see an ad on social media go to the social profile first before they go to the website because they want to see what you're about as a business, because that's where you get to showcase why people would want to do business with you. Marketing it's like asking somebody out on a date. Branding is the reason why they would say yes. Best way to say it. And your social media and your digital presence and how authentic you show up is how you're telling people why they should go into business with you, why they should come to your place of business, your brick and mortar, call you up in whatever they do.
You'd mentioned this earlier, identity, and I wanted to touch base on this a little bit. You talk a lot about identity. How do you help somebody that rediscover who they are at their core and not just what they do?
That's such a great question, Sean. And that usually takes a little bit of time. And one of the things that I love is the businesses I end up doing brand work for and consulting, I end up doing a lot of one-on-one coaching with either the principal of the business or their leadership team. Because a lot of times when, as a business owner, you know this, you wear a lot of hats and you're putting yourself in roles that you're really not skilled at. You're getting by with, and that chips away at your self-confidence, and you start to lose the why because of the pile of utility of your business. And so when you take somebody like me with fresh eyes and ask the probing questions, the prompts that allow you to really open up and get back in touch with the person that said, I'm going to do this and this is why, and help you forensically ask the right questions and peel these layers back to get you back to the core. And it reignites that drive, and it puts that new wind in the sails that you were needing. And I don't come in and I don't necessarily completely transform anything. I come in and I help the person tap back into why they got into business in the first place. And then once they see it again, now they're able to really blow that into their team. And it also impacts into their customer facing staff that is really the face of the brand. But the bigger a business gets, a lot of times there's this, it creates I call it a confidence gap. And your customer facing staff a lot of times are just doing what they know to do that they feel best represents. And if there's not a clear vision given from the one who started the business to the staff, then the staff are going to create their own visions and execute it in what they believe is best. So that's where helping business owners rediscover their core values and put them in platforms and messaging in ways that allows the team to not buy in because it's a pizza party, but buy in because it connects with who they are as a person and why they wanted to work there in the first place. Once you begin to connect people back to the why and the purpose and really uncover the true core values of that business, that's when you see a big transformation happen, because it first starts internal, then it begins to really be felt in the community.
That's so true, man. And I resonate so much with that. That happened to me about 4 years ago in 2021 of December. I hit a wall. I was about 6 years in my business at the insurance brokerage, and it was all about me. It was all about Sean. It was all about accolades and houses and cars and money. Well, I was miserable. I was burnt out. I was fatigued. It wasn't sustainable. So I did exactly everything that you're talking about. Of course, it was a blind spot of mine because the ego and the pride was driving. It was in the driver's seat. It got me to where I wanted to go, but it blew back up in my face. So I ended up hiring a coach. And in this coach, I went and paid like $3,000 4 years ago. He took me through this 3-month process. And that is exactly what he did, is what you just shared with me, is he slowed me down. I have found that so many business owners, so many entrepreneurs, they're all, like you said, so many hats. I got to do this. I got to call this customer. I got to make this sale. I got to go pick up the kids, whatever it may be. And they don't slow down to go fast. And that was me up until at 35 years of age, when he slowed me down and he helped me peel back the layers and go, what is it? Who are you showing up? He actually take a step back. When I hired him 6 weeks in, I said, Paul, I said, man, I'm not getting anywhere on these phone calls and I'm not seeing any progress. And one of my weaknesses / strengths is impatience. And he said, man, let me reflect on this. And I said, okay, let me call you back in 24 hours. I got an email within that 24 hours. And in that email, it was a long drawn out email. He said, Sean, who am I speaking to on this phone call? Is it Clark Kent or is it Superman? It was in that moment where my creator, transformational, catalyst, it just tweaked. It was an aha moment for me. I have been showing up as Superman and masking everything for 35 years. I needed to be everything for everybody. I needed to be Superman for my wife, for my employees, for my community. It was weighing on me so much. Crowd stress, neglecting my marriage. I was 30 pounds overweight. And when he hit me with that, that was when my authentic transformational journey started a little over 3 years ago. And once I realized that, I started working on myself, MD. I realized exactly with what you're saying. I found out my authentic calling, my identity, my core values, my vision and mission for my life because of the questions that I asked myself by slowing down And I got so obsessed with it, I started my own coaching practice, Level Up Mentoring and Coaching, 3 years ago, and coached over 40 business owners and entrepreneurs, replicate that, and did the same thing with them in these different areas of life. And then the Level Up and Live mastermind group was born 18 months ago. But I resonate so much with what you're saying, and I'm obsessed with that. It's the bigger calling. It's the bigger cause, because I see, and I know you do as well, so many business owners, entrepreneurs not doing that. And why do you think that is? Do you think from your experience that we have to go through as business owners through that pain cave like I did to come out the other end and go, you know what? I'm not going to throw in the towel, but I need to seek for answers, whether it's hiring a coach, a brand strategist like you. Do you think we have to go through that pain cave from your experience, or can we prevent that from happening? What are your thoughts on that?
No, and I learned this as an athlete. You're only going to get faster. You're only going to get stronger. You're only going to have more endurance when you come to the point of failure. That's when your body is built to respond.
That's good.
Our bodies and our life is one of the greatest labs to really learn from. And, in business, the guy's name was Blair Sinclair, and he said, it took the first 14 business ventures to fail before I learned how to do the 15th right. And so you call it the pain cave. That's where we learn. Unfortunately, we're not shown how to properly fail as kids. So we're only given accolades when we win, when we make A's, and then if we don't, we're punished. And so if let's say you're an amazing artist, but you're not good at science and math, well, because you're getting C's and D's in math and science, you're going to think you're an unworthy person, when really your gift is none of those. It's art. I got sent to the principal's office more times than I care to count, and swats and discipline for daydreaming and talking too much. And that's exactly what I do as a profession. So who would have thought? So it's necessary, because it's the test of entrepreneurship is really the greatest path of self-development.
Yes, agreed.
Because it demands everything of you, but I'm going to throw some faith in here. But it also demands that anything that you do in life, you have a partner, which is God. Because without that partnership, you're not going to have the real why. And you're also not going to have the beacon that you make all of your decisions from, because you also want to make your partner proud. And that's, for me, that's the greatest partnership you have to keep you in line. Because when it does get hard, you have to lean on God. And, God is the one that controls the outcomes. We are just responsible for the process.
That's right. I couldn't agree with you more. It's that it's that knowing that we're getting outside of ourselves, and knowing thyself, and having that self-awareness that there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger cause, and it's a bigger creator, and being able to rely on that person. Because it's not if, but when your business partner, your best friend, your community, your customers, they're going to let you down. They're going to betray you. It's going to happen. So who are you going to rely on? And you better have somebody outside of yourself, because I feel like that's the recipe for disaster. And I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I think having that beacon and being role models and being a child of God, I'm a big believer in becoming that 10.0 version. I'll never get to the 10.0 version, because I'm not God. I'll strive towards that. Who do I need to become in this journey? What pressure points do I need to put on myself? What challenges, what fears do I need to face? And I constantly look at that and reflect on that on a daily basis. And I know a lot of our audience and viewers who are wanting to level up and live your best life. I'm a big believer, in order to do that, you have to think like that. You have to have that mindset shift, and you have to surround yourself with a community that not only challenge you, but also hold you accountable, support you, guide you, that have been where you want to go.
So many of my lessons in life came from being an athlete. Because, like a triathlete or a cyclist, your off-season training, you're not really going to see the results for months. And the grueling work that you put in. So one thing that I learned, and it's allowed me to create this tool. It's my daily worksheet to help my focus. So I do it the night before, and it's my daily worksheet. And I have 5 non-negotiables. I call them mailboxes. And then and those are things that I commit to completing, and I literally check them off as I do them, whether they're business, personal, whatever they may be, from easy to hard. Then I have a radar list of all the things on my radar that I need to be privy to. And then I have my notes, requests through the day, and then dates that I transfer to my calendar at the end of the day. My day is not done until my mailboxes are complete. Now, if those mailboxes are done by noon, then mentally I can go, cool, I've accomplished my day. What can I now do, and what can I now enjoy? Or do I want to tackle something on the radar list? But what it allows me to do is set up my day intentionally, but then give me some focus of what I'm going to do today. And then I make sure that those mailboxes are aligned with my bigger goals for the week and the month and so on. But the reason why I call them mailboxes is because I learned this when I was doing Ironman. And it was one of the most grueling races I'd ever done that day. It was 109 degrees in Panama City, Florida. Not a cloud, not a breeze. It was brutal for everybody. About halfway through that run, my body hit the wall. And as any athlete, any runner, you know, that is a dangerous place to get when you still have a lot of miles to go in that brutal heat. And there's an aid station every half mile with also a vehicle that you can rip off your number and quit, and they'll take you back to transition. And I remember when that happened, I got really scared because it's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
But I reminded myself I didn't show up that day to quit because it was 4 years before that where I was well over 250 pounds, and I just decided to change. And I mapped out a 1.2 mile loop that I would jogging as a stretch, but I would walk and finish every single day without fail, no matter the conditions, and it brought me to that point. And so, but I realized that finish line's too far away. Doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. So what I do know is how much pain I'm in and the suffering that I'm in.
Yes.
So I'm looking for some way to give me a sense of progress, because if I don't find it, that van is very tempting to just tap out, to end the suffering. True. What I realized, as slow as I was shuffling, that mailbox in front of that house is getting closer. Okay, then I'm just going to focus on that mailbox. And as soon as I would get to that mailbox, and I'm literally talking to myself verbally, sometimes yell at myself, don't quit. Good job, MD. I know this is hard. Good job. Next mailbox. Each one mailbox at a time. And so each mailbox was my finish line because I could see it. Because the fact that I could see progress gave me hope. With my hope, gave me a sense of purpose of why I showed up that day, which was not to quit, but accomplish something that was huge. I just had to ensure that I didn't stay too tunnel vision, that I took the mailbox that took me off course. I had to maintain vision enough. Sure enough, I got to the point where I could hear the announcers. I could see the big turn. And then sure enough, got that last breath, zipped it up and kind of got this gate in the reserves. And sure enough, when I crossed that finish line, I passed out and woke up in the medic tent with IV bags. But it was it was brutal. But the lesson for me was, if it seems too big, your first step's not small enough. And that is because I can get paralyzed. When things get big and they get overwhelming, I will get paralyzed. We're human. Yes. But that's where I lean on God. And then I lean on the process that I'm responsible for. And okay, I need to give myself some mailboxes, some things, some actions, because one of the greatest ways to mitigate fear and anxiety and all that is take an action. Even if it's a small one, if you have, there's all this stuff I need to get done. Okay, then what's one thing you can do right now today that's in line with getting that done, and just do that. Because once you do one thing, you're going to start to build momentum. And that's the first thing to really help your brain mentally work through when you're dealing with a lot of heavy emotions, when your cerebral cortex is heightened, when you're afraid, you're anxious, you're not thinking right, because your prefrontal cortex, when you're really active out of emotion, this part where logic comes from is completely dark. But the moment you ask yourself or demand one or two logical questions, or you just take action, this begins to fire again. And you'll begin to now, let me do the next thing. You just need to start. And so that first step to that next mailbox just has to be small enough that it's doable.
That's so good. It reminds me of here recently, our board of directors at Level Up and Live. One of the things that we dove deep on was, in the group with the accountability in getting people to where they want to go in these different areas of life. And a lot of times what I have found is exactly that and what you're saying. Where focus goes, energy flows. Focus on that one thing. What is that one action step? And put that on repeat for week after week and week until you build that frequency, that rhythm, and that momentum. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. You may be crushing it in fitness, super ripped abs, 8-pack, two-a-day workouts, Ironman galore, but then all these other areas of life you're struggling in business, making money, relationships, marriage. I'm a big believer in, I hear this all the time, balance. I don't like the word balance. Okay. So if somebody that's balancing life, to me, you're not not challenging yourself enough. I'm a big believer in alignment. Where can you find alignment in the different areas of your life, whether that's nutrition, working out, business, spirituality? finding that alignment and how you're wanting to design that life so you don't grow to hate that without sacrificing these other areas of life. And that's sure, you may have to be intentional, focus on for the next 30, 60, 90 days to create this momentum. Doesn't mean you have to sacrifice these other areas of life. You can be aware and be intentional about that and communicate that. But at the same time, I agree with you. You have to be able to put forth effort because you're crushing it in this area of life in fitness, but your business is struggling. So what do you need to do? What action steps? What is that one thing that's going to drive that needle, move that needle and that priority in that business? What phone call? What email? What software system? What CRM system? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, and for anybody in business, and it's going to test your relationships. If you're married, you have a family, that is always going to be an area where a lot of people that might be really successful in business, but at home, it's struggling. And that's our anchor, right?
Right.
And so what I encourage people, and I have 3 kids, whatever you're doing, be 100% present. So when you're doing your work and you're doing your responsibilities, be fully present. But check in. Like if you're married and like with your wife, I live by my calendar. And, I learned if it's going to be a priority to me, then I put it on my calendar. And so I would schedule a mid-morning text, a mid-afternoon text to my wife to just check in. Hey, I was thinking about you. Now, she didn't know that I put it in my calendar because I did it various times, but I put in 15 minutes. Because if she texts me, I wanted to reply, or we just have a phone call. And then when I get home, my phone goes up. At the end of my workday, when I'm done, my phone goes up and I'm present with my kids because I want to be there with them, not in silence on our devices, because that creates so much division. So when you deal with, well, how do I do it all? Be present in what you're doing. Just find ways to ensure that you are showing up for the ones that really matter most and give them your best, not what's left. And so the only way you can really do that is prioritize it in a way that allows you to show up for them, but then make sure with your spouse especially and your kids, as you know them, talk about love languages. We operate from typically 2 love languages. Those are the 2 that matter most. We love all of them, but there are 2 that we speak. Like if you're speaking French and I'm speaking Dutch, we're not going to understand each other. So I have to learn your language. You have to learn mine. So if you want to know, what really fulfills your significant other, look at how they show up for you and others in their life, because that's the love language they need to be spoken. So if they're always doing acts of service for you, then when you come home, do the dishes or do the laundry or do something for them that takes a little bit of load off for them. And then, my daughter is a note person. I leave Post-it notes in her room or on her mirror, and she's saved every single one of them over her entire lifetime. We now have a journal that we'll write notes to, and I'll do an entry, maybe ask a question, just tell her something, and then I'll date it, and then I'll put it in her room. And then if there's something she wants to write to me, she'll write a story or ask a question, and she'll put it on my desk. And it's such a tremendous way for her and I to communicate in ways that matter to us because she's a writer. So, and with your kids, it's not about what you do with them. It's about being with them. And that's one of the things as parents, we so often think we have to do these grandiose things. When I look back at my childhood, I don't remember the grandiose things. I remember presence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you're looking to crush it in the world and whatever it is that you do in the gifts and talents that God has given you with your family, be present with them. And when you go to the game, don't be on your phone. I get it, business priorities and responsibilities, but people will always take what you give. So hold your boundaries, because if you're feeling resentful with things, it's because you're not respecting your own boundaries. And if it's in business and with a client, just tell them, hey, I'm with my family right now. I will call you in the morning, which most people, they're okay with that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it's holding boundaries for your own life to ensure that whatever it is that you're doing, you're fully present there where you are, but just ensure that the family remains a priority.
And that is alignment. That is the level up and live mentality. It's not balance. It's alignment. You can spend 10 minutes with your kids and be fully present versus another family or another dad that spends an hour with experiences, but he's not fully present. He's on his phone, checking email, taking phone calls, but you're fully present in that 10 or 15 minutes. And to me, that is alignment, not balance, right?
Right.
I love that you shared that. So what happens when you do all this that we're saying, when someone finally aligns, is in alignment with their brands and their truth in what they're doing on a daily basis? What happens? What's that look like? What's that dividend? What's that outcome?
The outcome, you're going to start to see a lot more confidence within your internal team, because with clarity, you now have a reason to start running. When things are foggy, people they're very cautious, right? If
Yes.
you have high turnover, typically attitude is going to be reflective of leadership. So it's not it's not a staff problem. It's a leadership problem. And when I say problem, don't look at it as if you failed. These are lessons. This is where you learn. You just have to take a step back and go, if something's not working right, then first of all, what is working right? And then take ownership of whatever's working wrong. Jocko Willink in his book, Extreme Ownership, basically the principle is, though it may not be my fault as a leader, it is my responsibility. So, and because people don't leave jobs, they leave bad management.
Yeah.
Right. Because
That's
people
good.
will give you so much of who they are if they realize there's a real purpose in it. And it's not
Right.
to pad the pocket of the business owner, but there's a purpose there, and you all feel like you've really bought in. And that's where cult really comes in internally, because if you don't have a culture internally, you're not going to have a brand externally. You're just going to be a business.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Budweiser did a really great campaign that had zero dialogue to it. And it was a Super Bowl commercial. And it really made you feel patriotic. It made you feel like you really felt the brand really got you. And all it was soldiers walking through the airport. And one by one, people there just started standing up and clapping. That was it. That's branding. That's emotion.
Yeah.
Right? That's tying your emotion to what you do. And it's not that a local business needs to do something similar, but it's allowing people on the journey of, picking up your kids and taking a call and you could have had a great conversation with a client where you actually helped mitigate an issue. And you tell people that. One of the greatest things in business is to be able to give people information. Gary Vaynerchuk calls it the jab, 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 right hook, right? You give people helpful information that allows them to solve problems. And then, because the more you help them, the more, and you don't ask for anything in return, the more they're going to trust you. And then when you do offer something about what it is that you are doing in a problem that you love to solve for people, because you've been sharing how you do it for others, because you just love what you do, they want to be a part of that. They want to be a part of that journey with you. Now they want to be a part of your brand, or come do business with you, or come to your taco stand, or your snow cone shack, or your power sports dealership, or your insurance business. Because once they see you being you, and they get a chance to really get a glimpse and be a voyeur into your business, that's what people want. They want real, authentic reasons to go, I like them. And once somebody likes you because you're familiar, because you keep showing up, well, now when they come to that moment of either dissatisfied where they are, or they just want to try something new because you've lowered the risk, because you've just shown up and you've been authentically you, not perfect, just you. That's why they call you. That's why they show up. So what that looks like is when you finally begin to get rid of the fear of opinions, because really, if somebody doesn't like you, that's not your customer anyway.
Right. Exactly.
So let's not predicate onto somebody who doesn't believe in you. Let's put yourself out there to attract the people that do. And that ultimately is what's going to put you on the trajectory to start aligning yourself with the people that they're just needing a reason to know who you are and why you do what you do. And once you give them enough reasons, now they're like, that's where I'm headed.
MD, you're the man. we are at a time. This is probably one of the fastest episodes, and I'm about 170 episodes in, and probably definitely one of my favorites, man. It has been nothing. Time flies when you're having fun, right? And just having a full-blown conversation.
Yeah.
You clearly, this has been a masterclass. And for all of our listeners and audience listening to this, I would encourage anybody to go back and re-listen to this. You clearly are speaking with authenticity, conviction, and you're being genuine. You've got experience and the skill sets behind it and everything. What's interesting is everything that you've shared, I've experienced myself in these last 10 years, and I'm just sitting here just shaking my head. You can go back and probably watch this video. I'm just like, eyes are, drawn in. I'm leaned in. And man, I really appreciate you. I know our audience, our listeners, our viewers, you're welcome. I'll go ahead and tell you, you're welcome. MD, thanks for saying yes to be on the show today. We're so grateful for you, man. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for that, Sean. I love these conversations because, again, it's authentic. I mean, you're getting my heart, and a lifetime of losses and lessons that has brought me to where I am today, in wanting to just connect with people and give them some hope in themselves, hope in their business, hope in their mission of what they're wanting to do, and be that voice that finally says, yeah, I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah. Well, you've definitely done that today, and you embody that. And I'm so glad I'm so grateful. Huge shout out to Christy Thornton, Coup Recruit, for connecting us, man. So that's awesome. Glad we had you on the show today. So With that being said, how can our listeners, how can our community at Level Up and Live, how can we support you?
Follow 35K a day. It's on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. That's where I just put out authentic messaging of helping to, give you new ideas and new perspectives. And, when it comes to marketing and branding, that's where you connect with me as well. I'm looking to actually work with local service-based businesses who really want to find a more authentic way to connect, who are serious about it. And start internally, start working on that external vision and your internal mission and purpose. And let's get your business aligned. And so you now know what to start saying and really connect with your community, because that's going to make the difference.
There you have it. Reach out to MD. Go follow him on his socials. Make sure we'll have all the links in the show notes for easy access. And to all of our listeners and viewers, if you're tired of surviving and ready to thrive, if you want to build something meaningful without burning out, frustration, or getting stuck, come join the Level Up and Live Mastermind group. We're giving you a 1-month free trial to step into a community of driven leaders like MD who are walking the talk. Visit levelupandlive.com/contact to claim your seat and start leveling up in every area of life. Link in the show notes. MD, appreciate your heart, your wisdom, and your fire. Until next time, let's keep building lives and businesses we don't want to escape from. Thanks, MD.
You're welcome. Thank you.